Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing why you shouldn't move on from your ex. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing why you shouldn't move on from your ex. So if you've been dumped, you might be wondering if you should just move on from your ex. In today's podcast, I'll be giving you 3 points to consider why I don't think you should be considering this option. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is breakup tremors need to settle. So when we consider the breakup journey, the breakup tremors take time to settle. And what I mean by this is that you and your mindset are going to be here, there and everywhere. You will have an unstable mindset when you are going through a breakup, and there is no set time how long this will take to settle down. You are experiencing grief. These feelings you are having right now are very similar to a combination of not just grief, but drug withdrawal as well. It is very, very challenging, and the breakup tremors can make you make rash decisions. They can make you act in a way which potentially, in the future, you may regret. And therefore, I do suggest that because breakup tremors take time to settle, you shouldn't be moving on from your ex at the pace that you might be considering right now. If you've just been dumped, you might be thinking, okay, I've just got to move on from my ex. But what does moving on actually mean? Well, in my opinion, moving on means the following 3 things, as well as plenty of other elements. So I suggest that moving on includes considering seriously dating other people, potentially blocking your ex, and also considering throwing away or disposing of your ex's possessions, which may still be at your house. These are examples, some of the examples of what I believe it means to be fully moving on from your ex. And I do not suggest you do this anytime soon after the breakup, because like I've just said, your mindset is not clear. The breakup tremors need to settle. Making rash decisions are decisions which you could ultimately regret. And the quicker that you decide to move on from your ex, the sooner you'll be making these decisions and more, like I've just said, such as blocking your ex. If you're blocking your ex, that is them gone for good in a lot of instances. Throwing away their things. Well, if your ex was to come back to you, how do you think they would feel if you would say, well, I've thrown away all of your things. We broke up last week and I've thrown everything away. Again, that's not likely to help you. And even if you don't want to reconnect with your ex, does that really paint you in a good light, being somebody who is making such rash decisions, throwing away somebody else's possessions, whether or not you feel that they've treated you badly? You need to be the better person in this instance. And the other option I gave as a suggestion of what somebody might do if they're moving on is seriously dating other people. Do you really think you're in the right mindset to seriously date other people, to get into a serious, potentially long-term forever relationship with somebody new? I would suggest you are not in the right mindset to be doing this anytime soon after a breakup. And like I said, you're experiencing grief. There is no time limit to the length of time it would take you to go through all of the stages of grief, and they come and they go and they come back again. They go, they come back. You will have to work through this at your own pace. And although I can tell you that you will get through this, what I can't tell you is how long it will take you to get to the other side. So I do not believe you should be moving on from your ex by implementing some of these elements I've just mentioned and more as well. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about why you shouldn't move on from your ex. And point number 2 is you want options. The best position to be in life is a position where you have options. And this suggests, in this instance, that you want to have the option of potentially reconnecting with your ex and potentially getting into a new relationship with somebody new. Now, even though right now, like I've said, you're not going to be in the right mindset to get in a new serious long-term relationship with somebody new, you're also not going to be in the right mindset to be reconnecting with your ex right now. You need to be working through this at your own pace, going through breakup recovery and concentrating on yourself. However, you need to be making sure that you leave the doors open to all of these possibilities. And if you decide to block your ex, for instance, or do some of the other things that I suggested in point number 1, you are closing the door on your ex. As I said earlier, if you throw away your ex's belongings and they contact you and say, hey, would you like to get back together? And you think, yeah, I really would like to reconnect. And then you get back together and they say, well, where's my work laptop? And you have to say, well, I've thrown it out. That new relationship is not going to last very long. You want options. Having options is the best position. And if you move on from your ex, you are closing the door. You're closing a door of opportunity. You want to leave that door open. This doesn't necessarily mean that you want to reconnect with your ex. This doesn't necessarily mean that they will ever want to reconnect with you. But if you leave the door open, you give yourself that opportunity of choice in the future. Sometimes an ex won't reach out to you for many months, if not years. And you're probably thinking, well, by then I certainly don't want them back. But do you want the opportunity to at least hear them out? Maybe even you want to just say thanks, but no thanks. Maybe you will feel in a more powerful position by hearing them want to come back to you and you saying, look, thank you for reaching out, but thanks, but no thanks. Maybe that is something you would really desire. Well, you can only do that if you leave the door open. And moving on from your ex is shutting that door. So whatever position you're in, whatever you feel that you might want in the future, you need to have as many doors open as possible. And that should be potentially hearing from your ex again, and also potentially meeting somebody new in the future. And as you move through breakup recovery, you will get to that stage where that will be an option for you. You will meet new people, and even if right now you don't feel that you would ever like to speak, let alone date anybody new, you will get to that stage eventually. It's nothing to be scared of. You shouldn't be frightened of potentially dating somebody new, because ultimately, all that matters is happiness. If I could promise you that you're going to be happy, but you're in a relationship with somebody other than your ex, is that something to be frightened about? Ultimately, all that matters is happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction. And if it's with somebody new rather than your ex, then that doesn't matter. So don't be scared, because if you get to that position, and you will if you go through breakup recovery, then that is something to be joyful about. Happiness is happiness. Whether you get your ex back, whether you find somebody even better, both of these doors need to be left open for you to have that choice in the future. Now, if you would like support going through a breakup, if you want to increase the chance of trying to get your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your specific unique circumstances. Go to my website, www.dateme.tips, for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate through your breakup recovery journey. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about why you shouldn't move on from your ex. And point number 3 is moving forward is best. I don't like the term moving on. As I've said earlier, moving on consists of you closing that door. Instead, I believe in something I refer to as moving forward. And there is a distinction, there is a difference between these two terms. Moving forward suggests that you leave that door open, but I was saying that you need to do. You are open to the possibility of reconnecting with your ex, but you are not just focusing on that option. If you decide that you want to close the door, then that is when you are moving on. So if you want to move on from your ex, you're shutting that door and you give yourself only one option, and that is to find somebody new. Now you might be thinking, well, I'm kind of open to dating somebody new if I can find somebody better than my ex, but I also would love the opportunity of trying to get them back. In that instance, you need to be moving forward. And that is why today's podcast is called Why You Shouldn't Move On From Your Ex. Because in my opinion, there is no need to move on. There is no need to close that door. Instead, you move forward. Moving forward means you are focusing on you and your journey. You are open to dating new people, but that door is still open for if and when your ex wants to reach out to you. It could be months, it could be years. You might not even want to reconnect, but it can always be a nice thought to hear from your ex again, so you can then have that choice. And this is all about choice. This is why I believe you shouldn't move on from your ex, because instead you should be moving forward. This doesn't mean that you want them back. It doesn't mean that you don't want them back. It means you are giving yourself the opportunity of choice. Leave that door open and then focus on moving forward, self-improvement, and meeting somebody even better. Then, if you hear from your ex, you have that choice, you have that opportunity. That decision is down to you. If you close the door, if you lock the door, if you throw away the key, you will never know if your ex wanted to reconnect with you. You will never have the opportunity to make that choice. Now, for some of you, that might not be a big deal. And let me just say, if your mental health is suffering, then you must do what is best for you. If you feel that you need to block your ex for your mental health, then you must block your ex. Your mental health must be your guiding light. Please do what is best for you. Okay? So if you're struggling with mental health, if you're really thinking to yourself that leaving that door open is really going to affect you, maybe this isn't about blocking, maybe this is just about following or being friends on social media. If you need to remove them as a friend, if you need to stop following, even if it's not as finalized as a block, you need to do this. If you're struggling, if you're suffering, you need to make that decision. It doesn't matter if your ex will find out but you are not following them, etc. This is not your problem. Your focus needs to be your mental health, and you need to do what you need to do. So although I'm saying that in my opinion moving forward is best, I think that is only the best option if your mental health is able to move forward. If your mental health is really struggling and you need to close that door to enable you to have a happier future, then please do what is best for you. But I would say that most people can get to a point where moving forward is an option. Most people, I would say, can get to the stage where they don't have to block their ex. They don't have to throw away their belongings. They don't have to act in a way where the door is not just closed, but locked and the key thrown away. And if you can do this, if you can give yourself the opportunity of choice, it is always the best option. Like I said in point number 2, you want options. Anything in life is better with options. If you're applying for jobs, you want to apply for as many as you can, so you have options, you have choices of which job you accept if you are offered more than one. If you go to 3 or 4 interviews and you get offered 2 jobs, that is much better than having one interview and hoping you get offered the job. Because even if you do, you've just got one choice. Go to as many as you can, then you will have the opportunities of which way you want to go. And that's exactly the same with relationships. Don't close a door. Don't say, well, I'm only going to get back with my ex. My ex is the only one. I don't want to date anybody else. Because if you do this, you run the risk of living alone. There is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time and nothing fails 100% of the time. But what I can say is if you put all of your eggs in one basket, then you are more likely to be focusing too much on your ex. You're likely to make mistakes. You are likely to beg, to plead, to reason, to chase. These things are unlikely to get your ex back, and not only that, you're not giving yourself a chance to meet anybody new. So, point number 3, moving forward is best, and that is why I believe you shouldn't move on from your ex. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.